Today I want to talk about self-harm, and I waited so long to talk about this particular topic because I wanted to wait till I felt like I was in a good place about it. Also, I wanted to make sure I felt comfortable addressing it because it's a sensitive topic. I don't want to trigger anything for anyone. So I'm going to be talking about it the same way I talk about my other videos, which is more on the informative side, so I'm not showing scars, nothing like that. Also, I wanted to wait till I hit the 3-month mark, and I did today. I haven't cut myself in 3 months, so I'm really proud of myself. It's one of the hardest things I've done is stopping that, but it was very doable, and it gets easier all the time. So, I just want to talk about my story and what worked for me. So, to begin, I guess I started self-harm back when I was a teenager, and I started with food deprivation, and then moved on to piercing, and then cutting. And even though the methods changed, the things I was doing, the self-harm methods changed, I still did them all for the same reasons. Like, I did it because it was distracting, like I wanted to break from my brain, and I felt like the physical pain was better tolerated than the emotional pain. I also felt like with OCD I had no control. I felt like my brain was in charge all the time and just giving me these horrible thoughts and emotions, and I just, wanted to feel some sort of sense of control. And, being able to, choose the kind of pain I had gave me that feeling. Also, I felt like I wanted to punish myself. And that was because I had so much self-hatred and anger. I was so angry for what I thought and what I felt. And I just felt like I needed to atone for that kind of, So my ex-husband caught me one day, and he was really upset. And I had a hard time understanding. In fact, I was probably way too, I wasn't even emotionally invested in the conversation. I was mostly annoyed. Just because I thought, like, why does this bother you? This is none of your business. Like, it's not even that bad what I'm doing, so why do you care? I was kind of offended. And that was the thing. I had a really hard time understanding why someone would care. It just wasn't working for me, because to me it made sense why I was doing what I was doing. And he didn't make me promise not to stop, which is good. No one should make you do that. That's really up to you if you want to stop or not. And he did ask me to go to therapy, though, so I did. But the couple therapists I saw at first, they were like, well, we can't help you if you don't want to be helped. And so it didn't work, because the thing is, I felt like I should want to stop. It just wasn't clicking. But eventually it did, because my OCD was getting a lot better, and I got to the point where I really wanted to be a healthy person. And that wasn't an option with OCD before when it was bad, because for me it was like, how do I get through the day without getting clobbered? It just, I wasn't even thinking about being happy. That was like, I was just thinking about getting through the day in terms of like, not crying all the time and getting through like all the stress and whatever else. But it got, once I got a lot better, I started thinking, like, what's going to make me happy and healthy? And the goals I have are things like medicine and healthy relationships. And I felt like self-harm was not a practice in healthy coping. And so it didn't really align with my goals. And so I felt like my goals were more important. So I decided that I wanted to stop. And what kind of helped me stop was stress management. It's a big one. So for me, that's therapy, learning how to handle my emotions. And that's a big one too. Getting in touch with their feelings is big, because I didn't really recognize how much self-anger I had. And all that self-anger is what sort of fueled this desire I had to hurt myself. And that was the other thing. It's just like the self-anger, it was weird. It's like I've never really been angry at other people, just me. And, trying to get through that, it's been really helpful. Because I noticed that the more I'm not as angry at myself, and that I start to love myself more, the less I have the urge to cut. And the less I cut, the more I start to care for myself. So it's like this just keeps going. The other thing is I start to identify my triggers. And the first one is, like, emotional stress is a trigger. So, like, if I feel like this sort of, like, general overwhelming emotional stress, then that really gets me overwhelmed. But if I know what the stress is caused by, then it's almost like I feel like I can handle it more. So I journal a lot, trying to give my emotions a bit of a voice, figure out like why exactly I'm upset, and that does help. The other thing is alcohol is a bit of a trigger. I don't know why, but alcohol gets me kind of depressed and in that place. But the bad thing about alcohol is that it makes me less sanitary and careful. So I don't drink anymore, and that's been extremely helpful. And the other things that have been helping is that I write on my arm sometimes. Like, I'll write a word like strength, and seeing that word really sort of gives me a little bit of a boost in getting through it. I think also the act of writing on my body, like leaving a mark, I think that kind of helps like satisfy that urge I get. And then, yeah, last I would say, I mean, besides that, in journaling, I think telling somebody is good. I told a few people, not very many, and I got some very supportive feedback, and just so knowing someone was there and they cared that I was going through something was really good. A couple people weren't so awesome, and the thing is they had a hard time understanding it, and it is tough to hear that someone's doing that, I mean, I wouldn't really like hearing that somebody's hurting themselves, because you care about people, they care about you. So I think that's good. The other thing is that you have to decide to do this for yourself, really, because the truth is there are healthier strategies out there for dealing with emotions. And even though cutting self-harm helps in the short term, it doesn't really help in the long term. Like, I would notice that I would do it, and then like the first few seconds I'd feel like a little better and like a sense of relief, kind of. But then the next few days I felt shame and guilt, and I was like hiding my body again with clothes and not telling anybody, and just feeling upset, and just this general sense of just like unhappiness. To me, that feeling just like wasn't really worth it, And the last point I want to bring up is that if, like with alcohol and me, so I wasn't that careful. If you do end up hurting yourself more than you intend to, or even if you do intend to hurt yourself to the level of which you did, and you need medical care, don't be hesitant to get it, because just because it's not an accident doesn't mean you're not entitled to medical assistance. Like, that's the rule is if you're injured, you get help. It doesn't matter how you were injured. So please keep that in mind. And lastly, just show yourself compassion. I know it's really hard because we beat ourselves up, and it's, we're so quick to judge ourselves and do like things to ourselves we'd never do to anybody else. Like my therapist said, like, what if you had a daughter, would you just slash her legs and throw her in a closet and tell her to shut up? And I was like, no, I mean, of course I never do that, but I mean, it's like, why would I do it to myself then, And the thing is, it's just, we're not more or less worthy than anyone else. Like, we all deserve to be safe and treat ourselves, safely. So, yeah, just stay strong, take care. It does get easier. It's hard, but it gets a lot easier. So, I'm going to post a link for a website with some tips and stuff if you know somebody or you do go through this. And, yeah, it gets better. Okay.